As we covered on the show earlier this week, at his first presidential town hall, President Joe Biden made explicit Tuesday night that he favors modest student loan debt relief over the ambitious proposal that his progressive base and party leaders in the Senate are demanding. So that's at $10,000 rather than $50,000. And if you thought that was bad, wait for this. On Wednesday, his White House suggested that even that modest package may not happen. Speaking to reporters at the Daily Briefing Wednesday, the White House press secretary said Biden planned to hold off on making any decisions on student loan debt executive action until his appointees at the Justice Department have a chance to review the issue. There's no immediate time frame on that legal review process, which will happen alongside a review by Biden's domestic policy advisors. And so there's more, but even the $10,000, which he could have signed the first moment of his presidency, he could do it right now if he wanted to. He could be a little bit late for lunch and get it signed. Even that, they're not ready to do. And it might take weeks, it might take months. Maybe people forget about it. Maybe it never happens at all, Anna.
I think that it's highly likely that it doesn't happen at all. I think there's a very clear reason for why Biden, especially over the last week, has seemed to waver on some of his campaign promises. The very campaign promises that made him seem at least a tiny bit better than what we experienced under the Obama administration. And obviously, look, the Trump administration was a complete and utter disaster. But what was frustrating about Obama was his willingness to entertain austerity, his willingness to focus all of his economic policy on helping corporations and the wealthiest people recover from their economic losses from the Great Recession. And what we're seeing from Biden now is him wavering on things like the $15 an hour minimum wage and also canceling student loan debt. Because just last week, he met with corporate CEOs in the White House as the impeachment trial was taking place. He also received a letter from the US Chamber of Commerce, as did members of Congress, arguing that the approach to the coronavirus relief package needs to be a much more targeted approach, a much more measured approach, and that $15 an hour would be complete and utter devastation for companies and restaurants. And so, I mean, just connect the dots, guys. At the end of the day, when it comes to the best interests of the American people, all of that really pales in comparison to the corporate executives and the corporate donors who really run this country. I mean, at this point, when I look at most politicians, all I see is a face to the corporations that really control what goes on in this country. And Joe Biden is not only sealing the deal on his legacy, which will be an awful one, but he is driving this country deeper and deeper into absolute lunacy. Because I guarantee you, someone a little more clever than Donald Trump and someone certainly more fascistic than Donald Trump will have an easier time getting elected if Biden continues to deepen the economic anxieties that people are facing today. The unwillingness to do something that would be so easy to do, but also something that would make Biden the most popular president in a long time, possibly since FDR. If he canceled all federal student loan debt, he would be the most popular president by far. And I guarantee you that some of these Trump zealots might even reconsider who has their loyalty, because I mean, it would just improve so many people's lives. And it's unbelievable that Biden refuses to do it. It's absolutely disgusting.
Well, if they are actually being affected by economic anxiety, then yes, that should go a long way to changing their opinion. I mean, everything that you said there was obviously so on point that I think you covered it. I'm gonna move on to the next level of how bad this is. And I don't even know exactly. I'm gonna read you a graphic, and it's a sentence, and all the words are in the right order, but I don't know exactly what it means. White House officials said Wednesday that Biden's reference to writing off $10,000 of loan forgiveness was not meant as a descriptor for executive action, but to reflect his endorsement of achieving that goal through legislation, which he has not yet proposed. I don't know what are you talking about? He says, I want 10,000, not 50, because I can't legally do that. Now, that makes sense. It's wrong. That makes sense as a wrong argument for why he can't do it through executive action, because maybe he's convinced himself that he could do 10,000 but not 50 through the stroke of a pen. But if he's not talking about executive action, if he's talking about legislation, then what is it can't be 50 because that's illegal stuff? But you're saying Congress can't do it because it would still be illegal? What are you talking about? And you 100%, well, you could do both, but you 100% could do the 10,000 through executive action. So you want to go through an entire legislative process for that, which would be totally needless, without getting rid of the filibuster, would be impossible for it to actually pass, would take up a ton of time. And even if we initiated that legislative process, you're saying something more than 10,000 can't be on the drawing, like on the negotiating table, because it's illegal in some way. I don't know what any of that it means. Does he not know if he's talking about executive action or legislation? Does he not know what the law is? Or is he hoping that we're gonna be so thrilled by the fact that Trump isn't here that we're gonna ignore all of this?
I just think he's lying. I just think his heart isn't into it. I don't think he really cares about canceling any student loan debt. This is the man who has contributed significantly to making student loan debt as bad as it is. He's the one who authored and successfully passed the bankruptcy bill. And that is the reason why students are unable to ever discharge their student loan debt. I mean, by the way, here's something that also doesn't get talked about enough. Right now, as we speak, Betsy DeVos is facing a lawsuit by students who had been defrauded by for-profit colleges. Their student loan debt was supposed to be forgiven as a result of this giant investigation that found that Corinthians colleges had defrauded all of these students. And so the Obama administration, its education department, was to stop collecting student loan debt payments from those students who had been defrauded, and their debt was supposed to be canceled. But that happened in the tail end of the Obama administration. And then we had, unfortunately, Betsy DeVos, who continued to collect those federal student loans, even though she wasn't supposed to. She was found in contempt of court because a federal judge ordered her and the education department to stop collecting those payments. She refused, so now she's facing a lawsuit. And guess what Biden's Justice Department is doing? Biden's Justice Department has stepped in to prevent Betsy DeVos from having to be deposed as part of that lawsuit. They are protecting Betsy DeVos and giving her the opportunity to avoid having to provide a deposition for this lawsuit. It's disgusting. So there are all sorts of things happening with the Biden administration right now that are coming to light, but there's even more once you scratch beneath the surface.
Exactly. And thankfully, there's a lot of good people that are pushing him to do. Well, I would say do more, but now do anything. I mean, when AOC and Chuck Schumer are pushing you, and you could do it right now, like he could do it in a minute if he wanted to. If he doesn't do this, like it's like you were saying, like it's one thing, like if he deepens people's problems, but if he has an easy opportunity to make a good portion of them go away and chooses not to, then not only will the American people be incredibly angry with him, but they should be. They really should be. He should suffer electorally as a result of that.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.